Give a big hand. Give a big hand to your fearless president, my dear brother and friend.
People came to take pictures of the Honorable Judge Mathis. People came. People took pictures.
Let me
look at the people.
Thank those who are responsible for this great evening we have here. To our president of the Atlanta chapter, President White, give him a hand. To our dear president of the Cobb County, she's done so much work, we thank God for her. Give Sister Bonner a hand. And to all the officers and leaders of the state conference of the NAACP here in Georgia, give yourselves a hand. You know, leadership is not based so much upon the title, the name, the good looks, the perm, or many of the other factors that we might think are important. It's based on leadership and the competency and the effectiveness of your leadership and the pull and gravitation you might have to others. You know, many Muslims speak so much about Elijah Muhammad, all the things he did, building an empire of black business during the years of segregation, gaining a following of hundreds of thousands of black men and women who were looking for some source of self-esteem. They weren't so much interested in the religion of Islam as they were fighting for freedom. But his biggest accomplishment, with all the empire, with all of the planes and the businesses they established, his biggest accomplishment, some would argue, was his recruitment of Malcolm X, who became a fearless leader and at the end of his days converted to Orthodox Islam and to the mainstream of the civil rights movement. And they say, well, Judge, what does that have to do with anything? Well, for many years I had been involved in politics and working with Reverend Jackson and others in the civil rights. Had not been involved so much with the NAACP. And then when I was invited to Columbus, Georgia, to fight for justice on behalf of Kenneth Walker and his loved ones, I was pleased to do it because I thought it was a worthy cause. Didn't know the person who invited me. When he told me they needed me, I was there. Right. I did get in a little trouble. But what came out of that was my commitment to the NAACP. What came of that was a place on the national board of the NAACP. What came of that is a continuous crusade throughout the country, speaking and visiting the chapters. Last Saturday it was Milwaukee. 2 weeks before that it was the New York NAACP. A month before that it was the Las Vegas NAACP. And so on and so on. I have a few coming up in the next month. And so my commitment to the NAACP, although I loved them and had a great love in my heart, had not worked with the association until Columbus. And so I say to you today that just as Elijah Muhammad opened the eyes of Malcolm X to Islam, your fearless president and my dear friend, Ed DuBois, opened the eyes of Judge Mathis to the NAACP. And I am forever grateful. I am forever grateful that his leadership showed me, not just talked to me, not just read it in the Crisis magazine, not just the history of the great history of the association. His leadership showed me when I came to Columbus and spoke to the nearly 1,000 people at the banquet and said a few things that the media twisted around and played over and over on all the television stations. And as he said, they called Warner Brothers, they called all the local stations and asked them to remove me from television. And so he thought they'd run me off, but thank God I wasn't scared and neither was Ed. And so not only did I return in less than a month, but Ed and I brought 10,000 with us that time. And so I thank you, Brother Ed, for your leadership and your hard work, and I think you all should be grateful for his leadership. Give a big hand to our dear brother, Ed DuBois. I want to also thank you all on behalf of so many throughout the country who are so proud of the leadership that the Georgia State Conference of the NAACP provided to the Troy Davis fight that we waged and in many ways won, because we mobilized our people now and reminded them of the breakdown of the justice system and the work that needs to be done. And now we have hundreds of thousands of youth who typically aren't doing anything in many instances but destroying themselves. Now they're building themselves up to fight back against injustice. You know, I was to have been, well, I was an honorary pallbearer, and I was to have been there today. Unfortunately, last evening, after a long and exhausting week, including been to 8 cities in 14 days, including my taping schedule, in which I hear 14 cases per day, twice a week, and we spread those cases around to make 5 days worth of shows. By 10 p.m., after I finished taking my wife out to dinner, long day of taping, came back to our hotel, relaxed as I thought I could, and watched a little television, and instead my heart began pounding, my hands began sweating, and I began to lose breath. So my wife and I, we went to the hospital, to the emergency room, and they checked me in. And I thought, and my wife thought as well, that I was having a heart attack of some sort. So they did every test they could possibly perform to see if I had indeed had a heart attack or was having one. Thank God they determined that I wasn't. Passed all